So today I want to talk about the art of exploration, which is exciting, and I was sort of inspired by the book signing we're doing this week, which is the something of getting lost. What is it? The Way of Being Lost, yes. Whew. The Way of Being Lost. So I'm talking about the art of exploration, which is connected but not the same. Because I wouldn't want to take all of Victoria's good stuff. And when you think about exploration, you might think of something like the people who trekked to the South Pole, or Lewis and Clark, or all the people who traveled to try to find the Northwest Passage, or astronauts. I think of astronauts when I think of explorers, because some of you know that I think that I should be the first space chaplain. I'm just putting it out there, when they have a trip to go to Mars, they're going to need a chaplain. Why not me, right? I'm just saying. So, if that happens, I'm sorry, Sue, I'm going to have to leave.
They won't need a music team.
They might need a music team, that's true.
Keep the spirits.
There you go. So those might be things we think of as explorers. But from the dictionary, an explore means to travel in or through an unfamiliar country or area in order to learn about or familiarize oneself with it. Travel in or through an unfamiliar country or area in order to learn more about or familiarize oneself with it. That was probably not as surprising to any of us. So one of the obvious first steps of exploration is leaving what's familiar. I know, I'm really good with just like obvious things right now, right? So when I think about that, I think about the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell researched thousands of myths and stories from cultures all around the world, and he said that there's this pretty much the same story happens over and over again. We've heard that, right? You can't it's all the same story, right? Read some Shakespeare, you'll know it's all the same story, right? It's okay. So the essence of the hero's journey is first you go away. Maybe you wanted to go away, maybe you didn't want to go away. There's some sort of, I need to go find the thing that will save my city, or maybe you got ousted, whatever it is. You leave your home and what's familiar. And then you have many, many adventures, which may feel like trials. And you may fight the monsters, whatever those might look like. They may look like trials. They may look like physical, whatever story we're telling. If we're telling a story of knights, it would be dragons, right? If we're telling our own story, it may be adversity or losing the job or whatever, right? So we have our adventures, and then there's a big adversity, some big adversity, whatever that looks like. And after that, we win the prize, whether it's revelation of some sort, like the Buddha sitting underneath the tree long enough, had enlightenment, right? So that would be the big shiny prize. If you're slaying dragons, getting the gold or whatever would be the prize. All sorts of different ways that can look like. And then you return home to share your bounty. That's the hero's journey cycle, according to Joseph Campbell, shortened and Rachelized. So, of course, the problem is often when you come back to share the prize, if it's a revelation of some sort, the people where you came from don't understand it because you have changed. You're not the same person you were before. It's like going back to your hometown after you haven't lived there in 15 years, and you're just like, it's familiar, but it just doesn't quite fit anymore. A lot of people have that experience. And so then you have to leave home and go have another adventure, right? The cycle repeats itself. And we may find ourselves in various places of that hero's journey in different aspects of our lives. Do you ever think about that? We might be like, we have different parts of our lives, different things are happening, right? Because unlike a sitcom, our lives have many stories going on at once instead of just one. And so I just, one more thing from Joseph Campbell, one of his most quoted things is follow your bliss. Don't follow your pain, follow your bliss. There's an idea. So, another thing I think about when I think about exploration, I think about these friends of mine, a couple who decided to hike the Appalachian Trail. Now, you've probably heard of the Appalachian Trail. It's really long, goes from Maine all the way down to somewhere, Virginia, Carolina somewhere, I can't remember now. And there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and you're out there on your own, and you're pretty remote. And can you imagine being 4 months on the trail, barely talking to anyone except for your spouse? Well, this is what my friends did. It's pretty amazing. And they, yes, had a lot of physical things happen. They've done lots of training, but when you do the trail every day, of course, your body is going to change and transform. But what was really powerful about their journey was what they talked about is their own inner transformations that happened. And they talked about the strength that they didn't know that they had. The strength that they didn't know that they had personally and together as a couple. And that ability to keep going through those adverse conditions, the ability to make a solution to problems. And they would have never learned that or become the new people that they became if they hadn't put whatever small possessions they had in their mom's garage and went off on this journey. Right? Another really well-known adventure is that of the story of Eat, Pray, Love. I'm guessing some of you have either read the book or seen the movie or both. I think the book's better, but that's usually the case. But in it, Elizabeth Gilbert goes on this year-long journey of finding herself. After a lot of really kind of yucky things that happened in her life, she needed to go away. And what was really interesting is I was watching this Oprah interview with her. I mean, this is years ago, because this all happened a while ago. And Elizabeth Gilbert was saying how people would started doing their own thing, but instead of, they would go and try to go to the exact same guru that she went to and stay at the exact same place because they were trying to find that same freedom and understanding that she had. And she was like, that's totally not what it's about. Because that was the person that she needed to meet to have the transformation. That was the place that she needed to go to have the transformation. She's like, you can have your own transformation in your own backyard. You don't need to go on my journey, you need to go on your journey. That's the Rachelized version of what she said. So to be an explorer means to travel in or through an unfamiliar country or area in order to learn about or familiarize oneself with it. So the spiritual journey is yours alone. The spiritual journey is an exploration. Instead of an unfamiliar country, it may be an unfamiliar area, but it happens to be the one here or here. It's kind of all connected, right? That's the unfamiliar country. And to go on an exploration is to familiarize ourselves with that. And it may mean to let go of the things that we don't need, or maybe put them in the figurative, your mom's garage, to take the time to go away, to go on our own hero's journey. That doesn't mean we have to travel anywhere. It may mean that, but it doesn't mean that. Because we don't need to go anywhere except for away from our own assumptions or notions about the world. to see things with new eyes, all we have to do is say, so why am I doing this in this particular way? We just have to use our sense of curiosity. Because, if we go on an exploration, like if we could walk down, I like to walk a lot on the trails here through the city, and I walk some of the same ones all the time, and you can totally not pay any attention and not see the things, but you can pay attention. So in the wintertime, you see the cool way that the frost is showing up on the trees. And in the springtime, you see the new buds coming up, and you're like, oh, wow, I think that branch is different, and you can do this whole thing. So you can be curious and explore the same exact place that you've been bunches of times, right? And the same thing is true with our own inner story. So, not to question our whole lives all at once, because that could be tedious and overwhelming and probably annoying. But to say, why do I have this assumption? Why do I understand the world in this way? And to ask those questions from a place of spiritual inquiry, maybe with a journal or with a trusted friend, to ask these questions and go into that deeper spiritual. Oh, I better hurry up because my tablet battery's about to die. Okay, excellent. So what if you looked at the world with new eyes? That's really what an explorer is, right? So what if we looked at our own experience with new eyes? I love that quote, not all who wander are lost, right? And so we can do that with our physical experience of just one time we took Mary Ellen to the Oz Museum in Wamego, Kansas, which is only about 2 hours away from where we lived in Kansas City. And I know, Oz Museum is really cool. Okay, so we went there, and then on the way back, instead of just hopping on the interstate and zooming home like we could have, we decided, well, let's see if this road goes where we need to go. It's sort of in the right direction. And so we went that way, and we were curious, and we just sort of wandered along, going in this about the right direction, and we found this cute little coffee shop, and we found this interesting church, and we went through the cornfields and the sunflower fields, and the glory of what Kansas is about, really. I mean, because Kansas is about Dorothy and sunflower fields and things like that, right? So we wandered a little bit, and we found some really great stuff. And I think that we can do that because there is no direct path in the spiritual journey. There's no direct path to enlightenment, because guess what? There is no destination when it comes to our spiritual journey. We just keep going. And so it's good to go on the side road and see what we can discover, because we discover something new than what we would see when we zoom by on the interstate. I know we don't have interstates here, but you know what I'm talking about. When you're going 75, you just don't see as much as if you're just wandering along and seeing stuff. So how do we know which way to wander? Because when we were coming back from Wamego, we knew that we needed which general direction we needed to go to get us back to our home, right? But it's not quite the same with the spiritual journey, right? So what if we chose a word or several words that were the steerers of our journey? Words like love or joy or faith or wisdom. What if we let words like that be the steerer of our internal GPS through our journey? What if we said, how would love show up today? What would peace choose to do in this situation? How can I be more of joy? Not in a cognitive exercise, though that is part of it, but in a heart-led exercise. And that's how we become spiritual explorers, right? So the only other thing we have to think about is, what do we need to let go of? Not to stick in your mom's figurative garage, But what do we actually need to throw out of our backpack to be able to be more joy and be more love and be more peace? Because sometimes there's things kind of get in the way of that, like resentment, my oh so precious story, and things like that, right? They get in the way of us being able to do those things. So in our journey of exploration, you know, you hear about people who do physical explorations that they end up being very wise and only taking the things they need, or they end up ditching stuff along the way, right? So that's what we do with our spiritual journey too. We got to ditch stuff along the way, the things that don't work. And we don't even have to worry about leaving it out for the bears to get, because, you know, it's spiritual stuff. So it's not going to get in anybody's way. It's great. So in the exploration of life, or of our spiritual journey, it's never complete. There is no destination, no arrival, only a moving towards. A moving towards being the best that we can be. Being the best love, being the best joy, being the best peace, being the best whatever your word is, or words are, version of you. It may not be as straightforward or as GPS instructions, and it may not be as, it's probably going to be a little more frustrating as GPS instructions, because it's a little bit more complicated, but it will be much more interesting and much more rewarding. So I'll see you on the road.